social media program. We're delighted that you're joining with us from around the world. We're excited to share that we have reached over 500 viewers each week now. We're excited about those numbers ever increasing as in to the wonderful message of positive, practical spirituality here at City of Light. We're glad that you're joining us, and today we have a very special guest who's with us. It is Reverend Dr. John Strickland and his beloved Sandy. We're delighted to have both of you here, and we are so thrilled that you are joining us today for this very special moment. It's a special moment because I'm delighted to welcome a very dear peer in ministry, a very dear friend, a minister who has been an inspiration to me and a great example of this wonderful journey that we can travel together in spirituality. He's been an inspiration and a wonderful asset to us in the Atlanta community, having formed so many fellowship groups amongst clergy and really building connections down through the years. We could go on and on of the wonderful blessings, and we've all been touched in some way, even if you're just meeting John for the first time, because the wonderful energy that he's brought to the Atlanta community has truly touched us all, and we're ever so grateful. So I'm going to invite you to join me in a round of applause as we welcome Reverend Dr. John Strickland to the pulpit. Thank you so much.
I want to see each one of you. I am delighted to be back here at the City of Light, where you have an amazing ministry that teaches practical spiritual ideas for daily living and which welcomes and honors all people. Thank you for having me here. I want to also thank you. There have been difficult times in my life, and the question has always been, who ministers to the minister? The answer is you. You ministered to me, and particularly Reverend Dr. Paul. Just when I needed a minister, that's where I went. And so I am very grateful for that. And you have a very special ministry here. I hope you know that, and glad to be here. And I know some people watching online, some who have never heard me speak, some who remember me as a football player in College Park, and wondered what would I preach about. And so we're going to find that out. One of my favorite books is by Emily Cady. It's called Lessons in Truth. And that book made a profound change in my life. And one of the chapters of that is called Bondage or Liberty Which? And she believed that we're all in bondage to a belief that we are separate from God, our Creator. And in believing that we are separate, we have a feeling that we are separate, and we live as if we are separate, and therefore, we're in bondage. And so what we need to do is get out of that bondage. And I'm going to talk to you about that. My purpose this morning is to help get you out of bondage. But first, you have to be motivated. Would you agree? I want to tell you a little story about motivation. From me as a little kid playing Little League baseball in College Park, Georgia, in a baseball field that used to be called Peter Pan Park. It's now called Richard Zupp Park. When I drove by, I wanted to see that old field where I played baseball. I thought it said Frank Zappa Park, and I thought, well, that would have been a place to play, wouldn't it? Mothers of invention, but it's not. And it's no longer Peter Pan Park. But let me tell you about this. I played for a team called the Flyers. Not Flowers, Flyers. And who do you think sponsored us? Delta Airlines. And our coach was worked for Delta. And this field was so close to the airport, the planes would fly over very low, and I thought if somebody hit a really high fly ball, they might just clip a wing of a jet. Never happened under my watch, but I thought, well, gosh, it just might have done that. There's an interesting thing about that ballpark. You can go there, and you will see that it is next to the historical College Park Cemetery. Some of my friends are buried there. It's a very special place. But as a little kid, that ballpark was between myself and home if I were walking home. And one night, I was walking home in the dark. There was no light in that cemetery. And wouldn't you know it, I fell into a freshly dug grave. Oh, and this little kid jumped and he clawed, and I tried, I just couldn't get out. Finally, I sat down and said, I'm just going to have to wait till somebody comes and rescues me. But would you believe that a teammate of mine who was behind me did the same thing? He fell in there and he jumped and he clawed and then he sat down exasperated and exhausted. I was in the shadows and he didn't see me, and I hollered out at him, Charlie, you're never going to get out of here. But you know he did, because he was motivated. He was motivated. I have a very good suggestion for you as to how you can heal that sense of separation. By the way, I'm going to go back to that story. Every time I tell that story, somebody comes and says, well, how did you get out? I'll just say this. They say, was that a true story? I said, well, it could have been. It could have been. But I'm going to help you heal the sense of separation and get out of any grave you might be in. But first you have to be motivated. Otherwise, you're never going to get out. For many years, I've been involved with interfaith organizations here in Atlanta and in Hawaii when I was there. And Sandy and I have been to the Parliament of the World's Religions, and it's just a marvelous thing to get people together of different faiths, Christian and non-Christian, and come together and listen to one another. Sometimes when we're talking, we're not really listening. We wait for someone else to talk so we can tell our point of view, but there we listen to one another. And one of the people that I listened to, very special in my life, she was a Catholic nun. She said something that has stayed with me for more than 3 decades, and it is this. Jesus only taught 2 things. You know what they are, don't you? Love and what else? Do not judge. And she said, but he knew. From time to time we forget those 2 things, and so he added a 3rd. Forgive. Forgive. Friends, I've been a minister for 48 years. I received my doctorate in religious studies right here on this stage. I was a salutatorian, but I have never heard a better philosophy of any religion than that. Love and do not judge, and if you forget that, forgive. That's incredible. That's incredible. So today's theme is going to be forgive. Forgive. If you want to know oneness with God, you have to forgive. If you want to be healed from illness, you have to forgive. If you want to be prosperous, truly prosperous, you have to forgive. If you want to be truly free, you have to practice forgiveness. I know a retired minister, some of you know her as well, and she practices forgiveness. And at certain times of the year, she takes like a retreat just to work on forgiveness, forgiving everyone and every situation. And this one particular time, the image of her ex-husband came to mind. Now, I'll just tell you, and I'll tell you this from experience, you ever need someone to practice forgiveness, it could very well be an ex-spouse. Could be a parent, could be a child, could be a sibling and that, but this person kept seeing this face of her ex-husband. So she spent time forgiving and releasing all thoughts of anger and resentment and animosity about him. And the next week, seemingly out of the blue, she received a check from him for $5,000. And after that, she said, I'm going to forgive him a lot every day. Now, I don't know about you. Now, in those days, $5,000 was worth something. Probably worth $10,000, $20,000 today. And by the way, she is very prosperous, and so is he. I knew her ex-husband. I have another colleague who spent many years working in management for Sears Roebuck and Company. And after retiring, he went to seminary and became a minister. Now, at one time, he was trying to sell his home so he could buy one that suited his needs at that time in his life much better. Everything was going well, and it was all set up. And then there was a hitch. The owner was having difficulty getting his mortgage approved. So my colleague was perplexed by that because it looked like he had all the finances and things in order. And he talked with his realtor, and he just asked, well, who is the mortgage lender where the hang-up is? And she checked it out and said, oh, it's the mortgage division of Sears Roebuck and Company. Ha, he said. He worked many years and had a good career. But if you work many years for an employer, you probably have had some resentments and some areas that need forgiveness. Would you agree? You've done that? You've had that? Even though it might have been a very good experience, mostly there it was. And so he asked for a few days to spend some time in prayer. And he went through all the people and the situations and so forth that needed forgiving. And then, out of the blue, seemingly, he got a call from the realtor who says, the loan has been approved, you can close now. And he did. It was a very happy sort of thing. Are you motivated? Then let's move forward. And I want to stop here for a minute, because maybe something I have said has called up the name or the face or the thought of somebody that you need to do some forgiveness work for, right? If that's true, and you want to not listen to me, just tune me out and start forgiving, then I'd say go ahead and do it. But if you do that, I'm just warning you, I'm going to go straight to your subconscious with what I'm saying. It'll get there. It'll get there. But if you want to start on forgiving, wow, that'll be great. Now I want you to think about what the master teacher taught us about forgiveness. One of his disciples came to him, said, Jesus, Lord, if another member of the church sins against me, how often should I forgive him? As many as 7 times? I thought, he was a little puffed up at that, wasn't he? Ooh, look at me. I can forgive 7 times. Isn't that great, Jesus? And what does he say? I don't say 7. He says 77 times, or the translation I like, 70 times 7. Holy smokes. Now, who in the world would you need to forgive 70 times 7 times? 490 times. Who would that be? Probably a ex-spouse. Maybe a parent. Maybe a child. Oh, maybe yourself. Oh, you're saying, you're getting way ahead of me. Have you heard this talk before? No, but you got this. Thank you. Thank you. That. Yeah. But Jesus is not saying numbers. He was not a mathematician that we know of. Probably did pretty well with math. But it was as much as it takes. A lot of the numbers in the Bible are not literal numbers. As much as it takes. Now, I want to go to another Jesus story. And this is in the Garden of Gethsemane. I don't know how many of you have ever been there. I've been to Israel 4 times. How many times have you been, Larry? Once. You went to the Garden of Gethsemane, didn't you? I took you to the Garden of Gethsemane. I took you to the Garden of Gethsemane. Well, that's a very special place for me. A lot was happening there leading up to eventually trial and crucifixion. But he's there, and they come to arrest Jesus. And what happens? One of his disciples pulls out the sword and whacks off the ear of a person. And what does Jesus say? The rest of you, pull out your sword, fight them, kill them, let's get away from this. And no. He says something very amazing. And this is going to be my emphasis, but I think it's the way he said it. No more of this. No more of this. And what does he do? And as I'm saying this, my hair is tingling on the back of my neck. He heals the man's ear. It's a supreme act of forgiveness. He doesn't say, I forgive you. And he doesn't say, listen, if you say you're sorry, I'll heal your ear. He just does it. We don't know that the man ever asked forgiveness or ever admitted wrongdoing or ever said, hey, fellas, we got the wrong man. We shouldn't be doing this. Let's leave right now and let them get away. Mm-mm. But a supreme act of, he'd been teaching it. I think he might be thinking, have I been with you so long and you still don't get it? There's an interesting point of this story is I'm friends with the dean of Martin Luther King Chapel at Morehouse, and he said once, though peace was a main teaching of Jesus, you hardly ever hear a Christian minister talking about peace from the pulpit. Why is that? Why is it? You know, we had songs, some like maybe from each other, onward Christian soldiers marching as to war. There was all this about a warlike sort of thing. And here he was teaching us not to do this. And then when Jesus was dying on the cross, they call it the 7 last words, but 7 last statements, one of which was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. Whew, you're dying. It is just a horrible, horrible thing, this crucifixion. And he is dying, and he says, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. I would hazard a guess that people who have offended you or harmed you or hurt you knew who you really were, a child of God. They wouldn't be doing bad things to you, would they? No. But he said, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. But I also think it's important that he says, Father, forgive them. You see, in those days, the religion, the theology, was only God could forgive. People couldn't forgive, only God. And one of the charges against him was blasphemy, because here he was forgiving. So he wanted these people forgiven, but he didn't want them to be riled up. He just wanted to give them the gift of forgiveness. And so he says, Father, forgive them. That's the prayer. So a very sweet and special thing to do. Now, when you forgive someone, you are giving a gift to that person. But who else are you forgiving? Who else are you getting a gift? Yourself. You are freeing yourself when he does it. Forgiveness is a gift to us. I want to talk about how-tos. You know, this is practical spirituality. And one I learned from a great teacher, Maria Nemeth, not a minister, a psychologist really, wrote a book, Mastering Life's Energy, taught a lot of us about forgiveness. And so I was taking this course with her. She's an intense kind of teacher. She'll beat you over the head with truth and then pull you back together and that. And so we were going to do a meditation and a forgiveness exercise. And I will tell you, some of you know, I had a difficult time with my daddy, who left when I was young. We didn't know where he was. Sometimes we had a hard time not knowing where our next meal was coming from, and so forth and so on. So I had a lot against him, and every time I would take a class and there was a forgiveness exercise, I was going to have daddy. I was going to have daddy. And I'm saying to myself, when am I going to get this? When am I going to get this and be free? Here it was. Maria Nemeth leads us in the meditation, and she says, I want you to see yourself seated in front of that person that you have these feelings against. And what you're going to do is say everything, anything and everything that has offended you or harmed you or upset you or angered you and for which you have resentment, and you've held on to these things. And resentment means to refeel. Resent means to feel it, feel again. And if you're doing that, you're not free. And so, okay, here's the man. So there's my dad sitting in front of me. Now that person will not speak, will not defend, will not answer, will not explain away. You just get it all out. Woof. Tense. Intense. And then at the end, he stands and you stand. And you embrace each other. And then he or she walks away. And I saw him walking across a beautiful field toward a forest. And at the end, he turns around and he waves and he smiles at me, that legendary Strickland smile, the one I inherited from him. And then he goes into the woods. Okay, that's a good thing. That's a healing thing. Well, could you agree that that was a healing sort of thing? Then she brings us out of the meditation. She said, now there's more. You have to call that person if he or she is alive. And you don't say, I forgive you. Why? Because that's kind of a power play. You dirty, rotten scoundrel, but I forgive you. Oh, I'm so great, I'm so wonderful, but I forgive you, and you're rotten to the core, but I forgive you. No, you're going to say this. I'm doing well with my life. You did a good job with me. Thank you, and I love you. That's it. Break time. And we didn't have cell phones in those. You had to go, there were 3 telephones in this hotel, and you got to stand in line. But I'm saying to Maria Neiman, no, I don't need to do this. I've done this. I've done the work. It's good. I feel clean. Thank you very much. And she said, no, don't come back in this room until you've talked to him. And the first thing I'm thinking is, he's going to think, oh, God, he's taking another one of those unity kind of seminars, and he's pulling that crap on me. He was a doctor of medicine, a surgeon, and he had a PhD in economics. This is a brilliant man. And I ain't going to be BSing him without him knowing it. But I was cleaning, and I called him. And he never wanted me to be first of all, a minister at all, and worst yet, a unity minister. And oh my God, you're throwing away the family brain, son. But when I called him and said that, he said, I'm proud of you, and I love you too. Thank you. Oh man, I'm about crying now. I can't recall that without feeling the depth of that emotion. And I go back to the class. She said, did you do it? Yeah. What happened? And I told her. I breathed with that. All right. I have told this story from the pulpit before, and every time there's people that come to me and said, I wish I had done that with my father or my mother or this person. And I said, well, even if they're on the other side, you can still do it. But if they're on this side, oh, what a blessing to be able to do that. And my father died within the year. So it was just a beautiful and wonderful thing. Now I have another exercise for you. It's not going to grip you like that. But it's one I've used for many, many years, and it's taking an affirmation and working it. If you've heard me speak before, I love affirmations. The thing about affirmations, your feelings will eventually follow your predominantly held thought pattern. So you might have to say these affirmations a lot. Mr. Fillmore, who co-founded Unity with his wife Myrtle, said he would say affirmations hundreds of times. Well, I wasn't as evolved as he was. I'd said thousands sometimes. Would you believe that? Yeah. And this is a familiar affirmation that to Unity folks anyway, that I have adapted for forgiveness treatment. I love you, I bless you, I appreciate you, I forgive you, and I release you to your highest good. Then I say, I am loved, I am blessed, I'm appreciated, I'm forgiven, and I'm released to my highest good. Then you love yourself. You bless yourself. You appreciate yourself. You forgive yourself, and you release yourself to your highest good. And finally, the one that has often been the hardest for me, I love myself. I bless myself. I appreciate myself. I forgive myself, and I release myself to my highest good. And then what I do is I add at the end the words from a favorite song of mine written by a colleague of mine, Janet Manning, I am free, I am unlimited. And it goes, I am free, I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me. I am free, I am unlimited. Right now, right now. Now, friends, I've used this for relationships. I've used it for work. I'm finding today, without saying names or anything, I'm using this for politicians. You don't need to know who, do you? But it's the same. Now, is this going to affect the election in any way? Not at all. What's it going to affect? My freedom, my finding peace within me. Now, some say, well, I don't feel that about that person. So, well, no, you probably don't when you start this. Keep doing it till you do. And said, well, that person doesn't feel it about me. I said, no, they probably don't. But you know, there's a higher self in them that does, that loves you and blesses you and appreciates you and forgives you and releases you to your highest good. So you keep working with it till you get it. And you will know, because it won't have a hook to it. There was a time I was leaving my very first ministry on the West Coast. I was 23 years old when I went there. There was a board president who also had been the benefactor in getting this church started. It was just 30 people in a dream, and we built to a much larger church. But I couldn't work with him anymore, and I called the headquarters and said, no, you can't, and he can't. Both of you ought to leave the church. So I took another church on the other side of the country. And as I was driving across, I was uncharacteristically silent. My marriage, my wife at that time, now ex-wife, was wondering, oh, God, he must be terribly depressed. He's not speaking. Well, I didn't want to let on what I was doing. I was doing this treatment. And I said, because I don't want to meet that person in another shape or face or form or gender in the new ministry. If I don't clean this out, I will just go to it there. And I did clean it out, I'm happy to say, and I did not meet him there again. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience with the new. And you know, those that are in 12-step groups will talk about a geographic solution. And this wasn't good, I'll go to another job, I'll go to another state, I'll go to another partner, I'll go to da-da-da-da. If you don't do the clean out work, you're just going to be trying a geographic solution, which never works. But this will work when? If you work it. So friends, you've heard the truth that will set you free. The question is, are you motivated to be free? Oh, and by the way, I'm going to leave my notes up here for Dr. Paul, because there's a lot of stuff for you to remember. If you want a copy of it, get in touch with him and he'll send you a copy of it, particularly those affirmations at the end. I can promise you this with all my heart. I will never tell you that you are stuck in a dark place or a grave that you cannot get out of. You can climb out of any grave or any dark place in your heart and into the light and be free from bondage. When? Right now. When? Right now. And so it is. God bless you.
Amen. Thank you so much. I will be delighted to put this the wonderful affirmations out, and you'll find them on Facebook, and you'll find them on our City of Light page. It's going to be on my page. It's going to be all over, because those were so powerful, weren't they? Amen. We're going to all put those to use as well. And if you'd like a copy also, we'll make some photocopies of it as well, and you can pick them up next Sunday, so return back to church if you want them. How's that? But we're delighted. You know, we have this wonderful opportunity now to demonstrate what we believe. We believe in a God of abundance. We also believe in forgiveness that brings about $5,000. Oh, right? No. So everybody start forgiving right now, because we're going to take an offering, because we're going to believe for a wonderful blessing. Actually, we're just demonstrating our power of our belief that we know that God is our source, and that divine source enables us to be very generous. So with that, we ask our ushers to come, and that we have the opportunity to give generously. Now, we have an affirmation that we share, and we invite you to join in these words as we bless this offering together. City of Light is a thriving community that is experiencing the abundance of God. We are growing and flourishing because we believe and practice the teaching of spiritual truth. As we give and receive, we join now in the divine flow. We know that all we share with life returns to us, multiplied abundantly, and so it is. Amen. When we practice forgiveness, we're walking on sunshine. That's what it's all about. We're just liberated and free to just be the divine expression we're called to be. Amen. As we conclude our gathering, we want to join in this chorus that proclaims, yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins in me. Because we love that positive affirmation that says it's happening here, now, right in this moment. Not someday, not some time further down the road, but it's happening right now as it flows through us. Would you join with me as we sing this chorus together? Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins in me. Yes, there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as my center, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Well, yes, peace begins with me. Yes, this is the moment now. With every step I take, yes, this is my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins in me. Would you pray with me? Let's join our hearts and our faith together as we take this moment in prayer. This we know to be our truth, a truth that resounds down through the ages, that the divine presence of God never leaves nor forsakes us. There is no separation in this world, for we walk continually in a full awareness of that divine presence. And in that divine presence, centered in that full awareness, there is a sense that we are one with all that is good, and we have an authority and a divine ordained commissioning to go forth and proclaim and to claim with great faith and assurance the goodness of God flowing in and through, around us, and ever for us. So in this moment, we speak now a blessing for all those who are hearing this word right now, a blessing of faith, a blessing of renewed inspiration, a blessing of motivation, a blessing of a call to greater understanding of forgiveness, a blessing of great health and wholeness and abundance upon their life. For as we go from this place and we leave this moment, we leave with this full consciousness that the divine is at work, and it's working in us in this very moment, for us and around us and ever with us. We are expressing this now, and as we share these words with great gratitude, knowing this blessing goes forth, these words go forth to be accomplished and to be manifested, and to be brought forth, we together now say, and so it is. So take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins in me. We want to say thank you to all of those who are joining us through our social media outreach. We're delighted to welcome people from around the world. We're delighted to know that if you're in the Atlanta area, there is an opportunity for you to join us in person, because we'd love to see you here at 3125 Presidential Parkway at City of Light next Sunday. We'd love to offer you the opportunity to meet with you personally, and I, as a pastor, have a heart for you and your success. So if there's anything I can do for you, please reach out to me at my website at City of Light's website, or my AOL account, revtpaul@aol.com. You'll find the information across the screens, and we encourage you to reach out and connect with us. We're eager to make connection with you. Thank you so much. For those of us who are joining us here, we're going to join together in our social hall for a time of great fellowship and a wonderful opportunity to continue to build these wonderful relationships and friendships, to talk with Reverend John and Sandy and all of the wonderful guests that are here. And those of you who have joined us today for the first time, we're delighted that you are here. We hope you've received, ushers have given you welcome packets, make you feel right at home, because that's our hospitality here at City of Light. We're glad that you're with us today. God bless you. Let us all go in God's peace. Amen.